Welcome back to another episode. This week, we're going to get a little serious. I'm going to ask Jose about his YouTube channel, Evil Intentions, and whether or not his intentions are evil. This is Saturday Gigantic. Yo, so like you've been getting like a growing fan base, with Evil Intentions and whatnot. But the way you present yourself in it is totally different from the way I know you. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I wonder if you're like conscious of that because like I feel like as that grows, do you feel like you got to be more of this serious like investigative journalist, or is it cool to portray who you really are, which is, you're a straight hood clown, bro. Like, you know what I mean? You're like me. Like,
Yeah.
it's the same shit.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of people know that, that like a lot of people who've been supporting from the beginning, they know, like when it comes to our circle of friends, it starts there. Because you know when it is, how it is when you always start something new. People are kind of like, oh, all right. Like, what that's going to be like.
Yeah.
Because it's not something I don't think anybody really expected.
Yeah.
You would know more than anyone how long I've been into that kind of stuff.
No,
or
for
like
sure.
how long I've been, really following that type of content. But I feel like given the content itself, I have to be as professional as possible.
Yeah, of
so
course.
It's kind of like,
because it's serious subject matter.
Yeah, it's kind of like I feel like if I go into a job I hate, right, and I have to go there and act a certain way,
Yeah.
follow those rules, then I should really handle, my own material that way.
Yeah.
Kind of like present it in a fashion where it's like, I know there's a lot of channels and shows you'll find where they kind of introduce humor into it. I just don't think it's the space for it.
Yeah.
Personally, for me.
No, of
It
course
doesn't work
not.
for me. I follow channels that do it, and I enjoy the way they do it because it's not disrespectful, but I don't know that I can, do it the same way. Like I don't think it's that would be a strength of mine to like introduce comedy into.
Yeah, I don't think you should do that at all.
Yeah, because I am
a
clown. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like a few years ago, I was doing Christmas videos, like just for the hell of it.
Yeah,
just being stupid. Just a Miracle on 134th Street. You're in that.
Yeah.
You remember, like, you guys jumped me for the PS5 and stuff?
Yeah. So, but are you conscious of that when I asked you, like, yo, do you want to do this? Because, like, it's something totally different. And, like, me, you're dealing with me, who I'm going to say some shit that,
Yeah.
that may not come off correctly,
Yeah, I mean.
Especially with humor these days. People take humor and comedians and comedic podcasts and just everything more serious than I think sometimes politicians and shit,
Yeah, I mean,
it angers people more.
I think they're two separate worlds. I think it's perfectly possible for people to do two separate things. You can have, you see comedians do it all the time. There's comedians who, a lot of really great comedians transition to do serious films.
Yeah.
And they're not taken serious at first. Like, some people are like, what? That's weird. But then they blow people away because I feel like to be a comedian and be a comedian on screen and actually be funny, you have to kind of tap into something that's like, that's real acting.
Yeah.
So it kind of is something that people kind of have to see happen, and then they're like, okay, they're more receptive to it. Me, I'm conscious of like how different I am in those videos versus what I'm like in real life.
Yeah.
But I am that serious at times too. Like there's times where I really do sit back and I get that real about things. So I just kind of put that on film,
I understand that too, because like I wish I could always like be funny. I'm even like that on stage. Like,
right.
Some material of mine is just like social commentary sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'll throw in punchlines that carry it along that make it funny.
Yeah.
And it'll lead to a big punchline. But now I can't just be a clown the whole time. I wish I could, bro. I wish I could be some happy-go-lucky, always goofy motherfucker doing some crazy shit. But it's like, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, especially now with the way things are. It's like you can't really, you're being held to a certain standard that didn't exist before. Like before, people were just going up there and, everyone was kind of writing out their stuff and like, well planned. I'm going back to like Def Comedy Jam.
Yeah.
And, even later on, Bad Boys of Comedy and but that stuff. All those types of shows where you're pretty much seeing a lot of people who are just getting their start in the business or whatnot. Like those people are definitely at a point they started at a point where they didn't have as much to worry about. I know it's weird for them,
Yeah.
like old school comedians like the Chris Rocks and the Cat Williamses, and I feel like they're seeing the transition from when they could just say anything on stage versus now where it's like you could say something. I mean, think about the fact that you could do a set and it'll be online in an hour.
Yeah, and
It's
somebody could
ruined.
be in one tag that you may be practicing and it's not fully chiseled yet.
Yeah,
The
it's not
idea,
fully chiseled. They might have been
it'll bring
a
you down.
network or a channel that was interested in putting your stuff on the air, and then the whole thing leaks. It's like, ah, fuck that.
Yeah,
You know, because now everybody likes to steal too. You know, people want to tell, oh, that is a good joke. Let me put my own spin on it. You know, like real nasty work
yeah.
out there.
So going back to like old school stuff, like I do remember you being heavily influenced by a couple like true crime shows,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them was the Autopsy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
HBO Autopsy.
yeah. What like I remember you being into it more than me because I grew up like it's funny. I could watch like the most horrific horror films,
Yeah,
like Inside and Martyrs. I could watch some really gory, insane films,
yeah,
but I don't like anything like real like that.
yeah,
That stuff
yeah.
like always creep me out, like
Mm-hmm.
real autopsies and death and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, what do you remember about those and like anything like stuck
Mm,
out to you growing up?
I started watching those because, you know, I was a big fan of like television. Like I loved watching like when I couldn't be outside because you and me were active.
Yeah,
We were in the parks all the time. We were riding bikes, playing
um,
ball, meeting with friends. We were
hitting people with water
always
balloons,
water balloons, uh, frozen potatoes. That's fucked up.
eggs.
Right. But you know, we had fun as kids. Like we were always in the street. We were always doing a multitude of things. But when it hit a certain hour, or when we were back home playing video games, watching wrestling, and for me, when I was like home and I was just kind of hanging out, HBO back in the day used to have a lot of documentary series like America Undercover. Um, they had HBO Autopsy, and that was with at the time the lead pathologist of New York State, Dr. Michael Baden, and he was like the main person who would like deliver some of the cases, a lot of the cases he worked on. So that show kind of put me on to the reality of like how raw it is. Like shit I never thought about before. Like damn, that this is the parts like you hear about stuff happening on the news and kids being abused or people being murdered on, in their homes, but you don't think about the after effects, like the people who have to go and clean up, the people who have to go look at the
Do the real
scene,
work.
the after effects on the family, and like I just remembered that show leaving an impression on me just because of the delivery. It felt like it was mainly about the victims.
Yeah,
They never really focused too much on when they could. They made it as much about the victims as possible. Like I got to know the people through the stories, So that sticks with me the most. I remember that, and I still watch those shows now. Like,
yeah.
I'll tap back in like just because it's something that I'm like. I still feel like it's some of the best content involving that genre. Like
Yeah, I never like revisited it because it was like to me it's like I said, it's one of those things that does it spooks me out. Like even Unsolved Mysteries, bro. That theme,
yeah,
bro. That theme is one of the creepiest themes ever, bro.
yeah, that is a
That,
pretty
it
creepy
gets me
theme.
uncomfortable. I'm like, Stan, this is unsolved.
You ever watched that shit and fell asleep, woke up with the theme in your head?
And now I'm the unsolved mystery. Like
You're having an unsolved mystery in your
I'm on
dreams.
Dr. Boden's table and shit. It was just
Yeah,
terrible.
yeah.
Dr. Boden, I'm alive. But yeah, so you kind of took that approach with your evil intentions, kind of always making it about the victims, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like, dude, you've covered a lot of cases, and like some of it is just like heavy, Is there any
Right.
that like stand out to you amongst all of these? Like,
There are definitely a few. I've got to mention the first one, which is the first story I ever covered. Now that's funny because that not there's nothing funny about the story. Let me rephrase. It's a crazy coincidence because the first story I ever covered was about a young girl from South Africa, Boitumelo McCallum.
yeah,
Now, that young woman lost her life in an abusive domestic relationship with a guy named Michael Cordero. Now, a lot of people don't know it, but that's somebody I went to school with.
yeah,
For me that was a very personal video because I was on the other side. You know, it wasn't me being related to a victim or knowing a victim that had gone through it. It's me knowing somebody who actually did it. And I remember, actually, that story involves everybody in this room. You know, for people who can't see, Matt is back here doing stuff. And back when we were on tour, like when me and Mario's band was on tour, it was '07, I got a call while I was on the road. And we're in Florida. This is the first time we met Matt, too. And we're all kind of hanging out, having a good time. And I get a call from my friend, and he's like, "Dude, you know, are you sitting down?" I'm like, "Nah, what's up, man? I'm in Florida. Like, I'm, you know, with my band." And he's like, "Yo, Michael Cordero killed this girl." And I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" I thought he was playing with me. And then he explained the whole thing. And I'm like, "Damn, like, this shit is, I can't, but I could not believe," because you knew Mike.
Yeah. I remember playing like in like I was like in 6th, 7th grade.
Yeah.
Like, I think younger actually. I was in 5th grade.
No, you were like in the 5th grade.
Yeah, we would play ball. We would play
because
like,
I met Mike
together,
in the 6th grade. I went to PS 75 on the Upper West Side. For those who are watching and from that area, you know what that area is like. Very pretty area, and you know Broadway and everything.
Not too far from Riverside.
Right, not too far from Riverside. It's right down the block. I went to middle school there, and actually I went to 4th, 5th, and onward there, because I came from Queens after the 3rd grade. And that's when your mom told my mom, like, "Oh, get him into this school."
Yeah.
And I got to PS 75. I met Mike in the 6th grade. It's my first year junior high. And immediately we were all friends. You know, guy that loved video games, you know, loved playing tag. Dude was crazy fast. We used to call it breaking people back then. Like, whenever we would play tag,
you would
and
cook
he
him
would
up?
just, like, we'll go chasing him and he'll jump. And as soon as he lands, pow, he was out. We're like, damn, he broke you. Like, but anytime he was everyone was getting caught because he was so fast, right? So these are like, this is what I'm thinking about when I'm hearing about this shit. And then I realized, like, yeah, he became a different person after high school. You know, like, we stopped being friends. Not that we stopped being friends. We just lost touch. Yeah, everybody grows apart once junior high lets out and junior high is done. A lot of people end up going to separate schools, and you don't really mingle with some of the people you knew back then. With Facebook and stuff now, it's different because everybody kind of keeps in touch. It gives the feeling that you've been, you know, friends with people and that you keep in contact. But you know,
keep tabs on them. Somewhat.
Yeah, back then it was just complete separation. I'd heard a few things like that. You know, he was having problems in school, or that he had dropped out or whatever. You don't really know what's true or whatnot back then. You're just like, damn, yeah, that sucks, whatever. And then years later, you know, he does that. So to me, it was like, I remember becoming very curious one day and just looking at the case and seeing that there wasn't much about her. And that was kind of upsetting. I'm like, I saw that someone had worked on a documentary at some point, but couldn't be found anywhere. You know, you could find a trailer, but you couldn't find it. And to me, it's like, I don't see the point in putting in the work and the family allowing you to do something like this, and then it just goes missing. Like, it just gets banished from the internet, and there's no physical, you can't touch it, you don't know where to find it, you can't see it. Some people really are in those types of situations, want to see that stuff, want to see how similar to their life the situation may be, or maybe they know somebody who's in a situation like that. So those stories are important, you know, to be told. So that story definitely sticks out. Another one would be the story of Elisa Izquierdo from the Lower East Side, little girl who was killed by her mother. She was abused by her for a long time and was like viciously abused. Her dad was trying to get custody of her, like take her back to Cuba to keep her safe, but he ended up dying from cancer the day he was supposed to fly her to Cuba. The second he dies, mom gets custody and the girl's dead. So yeah, those are the stories. They still stick out for people I've seen the most as well. Like a lot of people, I mean, it's a bunch that I could really, I feel like that every week. I feel like.
Yeah. You know? So, well, it's important to many. That's something, you know, you brought up about like families needing this, you know, and maybe, you know, a reminder, something that's just there to go back to.
Right.
But like when you dive into this realm, the emotions got to be heavy from everywhere that come across it, right?
Definitely.
Do you think it's more of a positive or a negative, like opening up these wounds sometimes? If you would even see it like that.
Yeah, I can't speak for anybody else's experiences really, but for me, it's been mostly positive.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much the first video I ever did was Boy Tumelo, and then the second video I did was this girl Minerlise Soriano, and I spoke to her best friend. So by my second video, I was already trying to reach. I'd been trying to reach people for the first video, but I couldn't reach anybody. I was able to reach people from junior high that knew Michael, and that's how I was able to get certain photos and stuff like that that had been laying around or whatnot. But when it came to the family, I couldn't get anybody, on from the victim's family. Second video, I spoke to her best friend, and she gave me a bunch of stuff like about who this girl was to her friend, and like what Minerlise was like, and what kind of stuff she was dealing with back then. Some of that stuff is still not even out because that's an ongoing trial. So there's the trial's still pending as far as I know.
Yeah.
It's very weird. It's taken a long time for it. Like the guy got caught in 2021, but most times it's people. You'll see the comments. Like people will be there like, "Oh, thank you for this. Thank you for keeping the memory alive." I try my best to let people know, like, listen, I know this is tough. I know this is a hard situation, a hard pill to swallow when it comes to reopening this, but the fact is this did happen. You know what I mean? It's not something that you can really brush over. It comes up still. Like a lot of the people don't read the paper. Like, a lot of people don't read the paper. But whenever a child is murdered or there's an abuse situation, they reference all the stories from back in the day. They start talking about Lisa Steinberg, Elisa Izquierdo, Daytwan Bennett. They start talking about these names that people are like, who are these people? And nobody's really going to go and search it. People, sometimes you'll find people who go and Google stuff, but you really don't get much out of that. You have to really dig or reach out to people and get, so a lot of times there have been negative reactions. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like the third video I did, which was on a young woman named Danielle de Medici from Brooklyn.
Does it come from the family or just random like individuals that are viewing it?
You have random the random viewer who has something negative to say doesn't bother me because it's like you're here viewing you're looking for this content on some level. Like if the thumbnail or the information listed in the caption got your attention and you wanted to click and watch, by what you're saying, I could tell you watched a great deal of the video. If you're going to say something negative, I don't feel like it doesn't even take up space on my mind. Now, the families, for sure.
Yeah.
Like, my third video, the reaction I got from family was like, one person must have seen it, and then they let everybody know, and my comments were flooded with, what is this? Like, this is not accurate. This is, it was a lot of stuff that, but again, I'm writing stuff from cases that happened like in 1995. In the 90s, and you're at the mercy of articles and papers and whatever the media put out there.
Yeah.
It was when, and I mean, I'm actually happy when that happens though, because I have a moment to speak to the people. Now that it's got the attention of everybody, it's like, okay, well, since it's wrong, if there's something inaccurate or in the papers got it wrong, now you could tell me what is correct. What's the real story?
Yeah.
And that's why I'll often just remove a video and like do that shit a year later.
Yeah, I've seen you remove a couple.
Yeah, I did that with that case. I spoke to her sister and she was like, I'm sorry that. She told me she was sorry that she reacted how she did, but nobody cared before me. That was her exact words. She said, before you, nobody cared. Nobody talked about my sister. Nobody even mentions it. And this has got to be one of the craziest situation. Like, this is movie shit.
Yeah.
Like shit you'd see in a movie that people would be like, that shit would never happen. This is really happening. So she was like, nobody cared before you. And I was like, all right, well, she sent me a bunch of pictures of her sister, gave me a bunch of information, and we spoke several times. And I promised her that I was going to redo the video at some point. Like, I'm going to make sure I do this again when the time is right. And, I did it. I did it like a few months ago, and she was very receptive of it. She was like, thank you so much. Like, anybody says anything, let them know her sister said it's fine. Like, like she wanted people to know that it was approved.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could go either way. Some people will flip their lid because they're like, you didn't reach out to family. I'm like, I tried to reach out to who was available. If you're like 25 years old and you're like a cousin or a nephew or something, it's not me. It doesn't mean I wasn't trying to reach out to you. Is that your name isn't in papers from 30 years ago. you probably weren't born yet, or you were too young to be referenced. Like, they're not going to talk about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like if you look up situations that happen with certain family, they're not just mentioning they're not listing every family member. So there are times where I have reached out to certain people, or the names are too similar on Facebook. You can't really get the right person. Sometimes I'll type in the victim's name as a hashtag, and maybe they posted something about the person, but most times if they didn't do something like that, it's impossible to track everybody.
To get everybody's approval.
So
right?
sometimes people can get the impression that it's like, oh, you didn't reach out to us, and it's like, it's not that. It's just a different type of situation. Not everybody is easy to get a hold of.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a hold of people, especially when you don't have any real resources. You're not like working with any private investigators like that, or you're not dealing with some type of agency that's giving you info. I'm using methods that are like archaic. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and you're doing it by yourself.
Yeah, and I'm doing it alone. So
yeah,
it could go either way, but for the most part, it is a positive reaction.
It's a net positive.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, because diving into, how many stories have you done so far? Like, you've done a lot.
Probably about 75,
so
80
all right.
stories, yeah.
You're close to 100.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of this has to do with children,
Mm-hmm.
What do you think are, like, the pros and cons of the justice system and, like, just in law enforcement in general that you've learned from these cases? Like, because to me, it seems like, there's a lot of fuck-ups more often than not. And, it's when a cop does bad, everybody goes after it. And of course, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But is there any good that they do? Like, how do you weigh that after being, like, heavily involved in all these cases? Not heavily involved, but diving into them, you know what I mean?
From my personal experience with the stories I've covered, and people can go check those cases too, most times when it comes to children, the detectives are like relentless. The cop work sometimes is like nuts. Like, these dudes really don't forget.
Yeah.
Like, when I could tell you off the top of my head cases like Baby Hope, Carell Slade. Carell Slade was a 3-month-old baby that was thrown from a 15th floor window. I just redid that video like a month ago. The detectives in that case were like on it. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't. It's not. It's so much deeper when it comes to children, because it's more like child welfare that plays a huge role, because they have the power to say, does this kid remain in the home or not? You have a lot of people who get their kids taken away for nothing. Like, there's just a claim that they were abused or something, or they see like a condition in the home that doesn't look right, and they'll pull a kid from a house.
Yeah.
But there are children who are literally showing signs of abuse for years, like years on record. You know what I mean? And they'll be like, oh, well, we found no reason to take them out the home. Or it's so much paper shuffling and going back and forth that nobody's doing their part. Detectives play a small part of it. Like, cops play a small part of it, because eventually child welfare has to be involved. You could call the cops 1,000,000 times, but the truth is that they're not going to be the ones that it's just so much deeper than that. You know what I mean? It's so much worse. I would say, detective work in a lot of these cases is really fast. Like, they're not playing. A lot of these men and women have children of their own. They have nieces and nephews. So
probably, I imagine if you come across something that's horrific as some of these, it has to hit you with a different light,
Absolutely. Like, the detectives, a lot of them will tell you that it's like a switch for them. They have the ability to turn that emotion off when they come across a kid, like a child who's like they see this so much that they know that the only way to go forward by doing that type of job, or like seeing this kind of stuff, if you're working for special victims or sex crimes, stuff like that, is to like turn it off in your head and don't bring it home with you.
Yeah.
But it sticks with them. It sticks with them for years. You'll come, there's cases that are solved 25 years later, and the same detectives that were working on it back then are still there. Like, I remember this. You could tell these people care, but they just it's like everybody plays a role. And if one of those parties decides to fuck up or not take their job serious, you see what happens.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to have 1,000,000 people that tell you it's caseloads, the people are underpaid. listen, there's a lot of jobs where people are underpaid in New York or in the city. Your EMS workers are some of the most underpaid in the city.
Yeah,
They don't leave
ridiculously
people
too.
dying on the floor. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? They don't walk by and say, "Yo, this guy looks fine, man. I'm out of here." You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I'm not
they
gonna,
they
yeah,
know.
I'm not gonna pick this
You know
guy
what I'm saying?
up.
And this is not laughing at the situation. This
No,
is
no,
just
it's just
like
true. They,
I'm
they
laughing at
still,
how absurd that is. That
Yeah.
there are people who really get like touchy with it. You know, like, oh, why don't you go do the job if you want to make a difference? And it's like, this is how I'm making a difference. Because if you don't notice, the only way shit gets done these days is if you shame people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the only way shit gets done. Every time a kid gets killed, you hear they're gonna rehaul the system. This is terrible. This is such a tragedy. We gotta change this. This will not be in vain. There's still nowhere memorializing these children. You can't even see a park bench with a child's name on it. Nothing. It's absolutely nothing. It's like it never happened. And the reason is because and what I think is we're such a big tourist city, and there's so much rent space that needs to be filled up out here, and we're not paying it. New Yorkers are leaving New York to pay cheaper prices elsewhere. Motherfuckers from Ohio are the ones coming out here and paying like
elsewhere.
$3,000 to live in a closet. You know what I'm saying? Last thing you want to do is drive them away by letting them know what the fuck really goes on out here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you start letting them know, like, yo, listen, you could live in that section of Brooklyn, but you might hear a kid getting beat every night. You might have to call the cops. You might catch some beef. You might have people coming to your door like, yo, you called, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the type of shit that turns people off.
Yeah.
So it's like they draw attention to it, the media and stuff like that. They do what they can, but everybody has a boss. Everybody has somebody trying to tell them, listen, underneath all that is people just don't care. A lot of people don't care. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's kind of like the life goes on thing, right? People just trying to like forget. Right. It's like, but you know, speaking of that, because I think about how we grew up, right?
Right.
And like even like in our neighborhoods and whatnot, and how much it has been reformed and changed for a positive. It's been for a positive, man. Because where I lived growing up, you know, every night, dude, I've seen, you know, friends of family members murder people and really seen it happen on the block.
I remember.
Yeah, and catch 3 bodies right in front of us, like.
These are the things that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
You see, and this is what I mean, you and me had this conversation, not to interrupt you. We had this conversation years ago, and I said, bro, there's so much stuff that happened in this hood that people do not talk about.
Yeah, because now there's Thai restaurants, and now you can,
Columbia runs the
you
whole
can go
shit.
get a little latte on the corner now,
like,
and everything.
It's very much like downtown New York, you know?
Yeah.
And Amsterdam looks like Broadway now.
Yeah.
Broadway was always like
that.
Amsterdam, everybody knows, and any Upper West Side native will tell you, you hit 96th Street, you go to Amsterdam, and once you hit 99th in Amsterdam, that shit turns into the hood.
Yeah, always.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, you already there's other areas before 96 that you got Wise Towers. 93rd. You got all those blocks is hot. They used to be hot too.
Yeah.
They were always hot, but there was a safe space between that. You know what I'm saying? There was a safe, like,
catch that Broadway.
Right.
Go
there
get
was
a slice
safe
of pizza.
Space. Now all that shit kind of looks the same, but that, you know, I touched on that. I tried to tell because I saw you know, Merlin Santana.
Yeah.
He was tight with your brother.
Yeah. They went to school together.
Right, they went to school together. So people don't know that, but I remember when he passed away, and I remember Otis coming home and being fucked up over that. I remember him being like, "Yo, they killed Merlin," and we were like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, man, they killed him, yo, some bullshit." Like, I remember him being hurt by that. Like, damn, this shit is crazy. Like, this dude was really doing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not to say that you ain't making moves if you don't make it in Hollywood. I'm not saying that, but
no, but he was
to see someone make it
from the block,
right from the block, and he's in
that
movies
looks like you.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Seeing someone that was right down the block on his motorcycle, running around with different people, like, that was cool to see that you can really just blow up like that.
Yeah.
But I touched on that in that video. I talked about how the Upper West Side was a different world. Like, shootouts every day. We had curfews. Like you said, we seen people get smoked just straight.
Yeah.
Like, in daylight. Smoke. Remember when your mom thought Otis got killed?
Yeah.
In front of the building? She lost her shit, yo. Mario's mom thought that was a straight bah, 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 bah. People screaming, wilding out. And she looked out the window and she saw jeans and Timbs. and it was everybody had jeans and Timbs back then. But Otis had just left the crib wearing the same shit, so she saw she saw through the fire escape. Like she looked down and she could only see his bottom half, and she thought your brother got killed.
Yeah, back then it was just a different. Dude, I remember people having to wear bulletproof vests because people like thought they had a hit out on them and stuff, and it was like family involved. Like,
yeah, it was really like that, bro. It was really like that, and that's where Merlin was from. You watch another documentary out there, or you read certain, they'll say he was from Washington Heights. Like, bro, those are vastly different neighborhoods, bro.
Yeah.
Like, anyone from the Heights to get mad if you say they're from the Upper West. Be like, what? I'm from the Heights.
Yeah.
Or I'm from Dykeman. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're from Harlem on 139 and Lenox.
Yeah.
If you're from 139 Lenox, you don't want to be confused with being from 139 and Grand. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's different.
In the Bronx, like, it's just not. They're different places. All these places got like regions that
So this goes into what I actually want to ask you, because like this is what we come from. This is what we've seen, and even though right now, if you look at statistically, we are in the safest time. Probably, even though there's wars going on and there's always stuff like that, but statistically, we are in the safest time ever, and for the history of man, I believe. Right? Do you think that reflects when you look at certain things in New York City and you dive into cases, or is it just as horrible as ever?
I mean, an honest opinion is it was definitely worse back then.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons why. Some people are gonna defute that or argue that. They're gonna I even if I said the right word, refute. I don't know. But
you combine them.
Yeah, combine them. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna try to deny it.
Urban
right?
Dictionary.
Right, Urban Dictionary, baby. They're gonna try to deny it, but in the 80s, the subway system, just because that's a big problem now, and I just started the new series, Subway Stories, right?
Yeah.
But back then, it was different because turnstiles weren't technologically advanced. You could just hop the turnstile. You needed tokens. Protection was very limited. There were no police forces downtown in the train stations. People were getting mugged nonstop. Zero surveillance. That's a big part of it. Surveillance is a major deterrent. A lot of people are getting bagged just the cameras. Crime Stoppers, every week you see a motherfucker getting bagged with his whole profile.
Yeah.
They catch the dude like two minutes later. So people automatically are like, nah, I'm not fucking with that. There's still a lot of violence, and I believe that the numbers are definitely manipulated in some way, because there's a lot of times where you can say the city in whole is the safest it's ever been, but if you go somewhere in the Bronx and you live on a hot block, all those shootings might happen on that block.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't know the difference. The people who don't read the papers and don't give a fuck about statistics, all they know is that, a dude got murdered here last week. This dude shot his girlfriend a week later. This other house got robbed. Like, esto ta canela pa aquí, Like, this shit is crazy over here. That's how people start to think. Like, even if it only happened, let's say it happens 3 times in a year, you're going to say your block is hot because it's people getting smoked.
Yeah, that's your reality.
Yeah, that's your reality. It could be you the next day. You just never know, especially with, like, we've had a major uptick in different gangs popping up and shit like that. And, I mean, gangs have always been a part of New York City. You know what I'm saying? Like, major, like, I'm talking about back in the day, 70s. You had the Bronx was filled with gangs. Harlem was filled with gangs. Whether it be different blocks, Savage Skulls, the Nomads,
Black Spades, Ghetto Brothers.
Yeah, Ghetto Brothers. You had a bunch of different factions that were all, but it was just a different time,
Yeah.
Now it's like a lot of that. There's a lot of problems. The social media game plays it plays a big role in that too. We didn't have a lot of stuff that triggers the beef.
Yeah.
It's very easy to go online and just talk some shit and that shit just sparks.
Yeah. I think that's like, I think that's why some people do feel, even though it's a decline in numbers, feel it more than ever. And it's definitely because of technology.
Absolutely.
Because you could see somebody you could see something horrific happen in fucking France or Italy.
Instantly.
And then you'll feel like, oh my God, this is my reality.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at it on your phone.
Yeah. But you're miles away from that.
Yeah, you're not anywhere in that vicinity.
Right.
But you're still feeling that whatever brain chemical
Yeah.
is producing that reaction to you,
Right.
to feel empathetic or feel like, oh shit, is so horrific. I can't believe people are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there is a slight difference between your reality and what you're perceiving through this phone. You know.
Yeah,
I
it's
do wish
true.
people lived. I think a lot of people would be net happier if they lived in their bubble more.
Yeah.
Even though some people's bubbles, like you said, if you're in the Bronx,
Mm-hmm.
that is your reality,
That is your
and it is
reality. Yeah.
fucked up.
The thing
Or if
is,
you're whatever part, if you're in Missouri or wherever,
right.
the other different parts, Detroit, wherever is Chicago, where things are fucked up,
Yeah, yeah,
that's your reality. But
yeah,
some people will feel panicked and get nervous that live in like really upscale neighborhoods and
yeah.
shit.
They think that's yeah. Like, I get what you're saying. Like here's the thing. It's important as much as possible to disconnect from the stuff that you can control.
Yeah,
If you can control, Twitter's like a cesspool, bro. You know what I'm saying? Not that the platform's bad or the people on it are bad. It's just very easy to stumble across shit you don't want to see.
yeah,
So you could have watched one video by accident one day about somebody getting blown to bits, and the next thing you know, you'll go to Twitter and it'll be a timeline filled with mass casualties and crazy gory shit that you don't really not prepared for. So that'll definitely put it in your mind that this shit is, like wow, like this world is fucked up. But you might be like, well, the proof is this: you'll find 100,000 people who will protest about something that happened, across the sea. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Which is fine. People got to make their voices known, but I wish we had that same type of treatment for the stuff going on right here.
yeah,
I don't see not one unless it's somebody getting shot, for no reason, which is terrible. There's not really a lot of uproar
backlash.
for the shit that's really happening in these. Like I've been criticized for bringing these stories to light.
Yeah,
That'll tell you the mentality of some of the people that are out there kind of absorbing this shit. Like some people will be like, oh, why are you don't have no other stories to talk about? Why are you always covering Latinos and blacks? And I'm like, bro, I grew up in New York City. If I grew up in Nebraska or some shit, maybe I'll cover some shit going on in fucking Nebraska.
yeah,
But I lived in the Upper West in Douglas. Then I moved to Manhattanville. You know what I'm saying? Then I moved pretty much up the block. This shit is nothing but Latinos and African American families.
yeah,
And we're all in a melting pot of seeing the same shit. Everybody out here is desensitized to the fucking madness, bro. Like now, you see like those memes that you see like a crazy dude in the tracks about to get run over, and people like, yo, get the fuck
Y'all
out the
gotta
track.
go to work, my man.
I gotta go to
Yeah,
work,
it's just
motherfucker.
normal.
Yeah, like
It's,
that.
it is not normal.
That's not normal.
It's not
You know
normal.
what I'm saying? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think I'm any. Like you said, I'm a clown. Like I find shit funny too.
Yeah,
But when it starts to get more, when those situations escalate to something way more nasty and way darker, and that shit is just ignored, that's where you start to see there's a problem.
yeah,
Because there's a lot of wild shit going on out here, and I don't think people realize it's happening. It's all happening again, like much, much, much more.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's definitely happening a lot more at an alarming rate.
yeah. Statistics, no matter what, don't reflect the pain.
Nah,
Yeah,
not at
because
all.
if one person is affected, that one person you can't tell. You can't. What are you gonna tell them?
Exactly.
Oh, you're just a one.
Right.
Yeah,
Like, people could control what they absorb on their phones.
Yeah,
You can't control what happens outside your front door. You know what I'm
correct.
saying? You could walk out here tomorrow and just in the middle, you could have just been you never seen those stories where it's like a man was just walking out to, put a quarter in his meter or some shit, and he just got hit with a bullet in the head. Like the
Yeah.
timing on that is so crazy that you wouldn't think it's ever gonna happen, but it's happening.
It
You know what I'm
does.
saying? That shit happens, and I feel like there's not a lot of. It's like it's just very much forgotten very quickly. Like if you could disconnect from the madness going on out there, I'd suggest doing it. But when it comes to the stuff out here, it's like it's outside your front door. You can't really change it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yo, so I think it's something like when people see, like I look at it with like things like any documentary, Netflix,
Mhm.
anybody diving into these things. I know people think it because it's like it's just what it is, but like benefiting from it. Do you
Mhm.
feel like how do you like take that in? People kind of look at it like, yo, you're benefiting from tragedy.
Of course, that
So-
everybody's always gonna, and I get that. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to this is me talking from my perspective. I'll give you the rundown right now. For me, I put in so much time and work into my videos. Sometimes I take 2 or 3 weeks to release one video, and I've said it from the beginning. I'm not gonna be one of those channels that's trying to pump out. You know, I have a day job. I don't need to rely on the monetization. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that when you're pumping too much content out, it feels like a lot of people are just good at putting in that work. Like, me personally, I can't upload 3, 4 videos a week. You know what I mean? I don't see that happening. Maybe two, but 3, 4, or 5 videos a week, you know, with brand new cases and old ones, I just can't see myself doing that. Um, Everyone's going to benefit from something in some manner. What I see it as is I'm if I do make money off of it, because most of the content is demonetized. Like
Yeah.
true crime channels, if they're involving anybody, will tell you, you'll see a lot of people rely on Patreon if they have true crime channels, which I don't have. Donations, I don't ask for those either. Or they'll have like a YouTube premium subscription thing, like the memberships only type deal, you know, where it helps them because this all takes work. You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
cameras
no,
you
it
buy,
takes
the
time.
laptops,
Yeah.
editing, and you take your time out. So you have to, be able to make money to put it back into the channel. So for me, it's always been if I do make money off of it, that just goes back into the channel because the idea is to blow these unknown stories up and force it into the faces of these people who have been ignoring it, not like the average viewer, but the people who are in positions of power, the people who can really sit there and like say, yo, you know what, this something needs to be done because this is kind of crazy what's going on out there, you kind of have to keep putting it out there, and eventually when these reach a point that they can't be ignored, and let's say ABC wants to follow up with a family, I consider myself to just be the middleman.
Yeah.
Like, you know what, you want that family on the video I did, they're right here. Like, that's all you. Whether it be a series that comes out of that or a movie or whatever the case is, that's the family that needs to compensate from that 100%. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be the person that's like taking money and like, that shit. I consider myself just like a short filmmaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm making these short films and I'm putting my work in, and the whole point is for everybody to be able to, get their stories told and be, if they're owed compensation for the fuck up that the city did or whatever the case may be, then so be it. They deserve that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are in that situation. You know what I mean? A lot of people have crazy situations where there's just like no justice, no type of acknowledgement, just straight people walking day in day out like zombies with this trauma in them. Like, a lot of, not everybody, but some people, I'm quoting, like, some people have said that, like, I feel like a zombie sometimes walking around with this in me, nobody cares, this and this. It's real conversations I've had with people. So I might not be in their position, but I get it, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of comes with the territory. If you're on a platform like that, whether it be you're doing a 9/11 story like I did, or Merlin Santana, or whoever it is, it's a benefit, but that always goes right back into the channel.
Yeah.
It goes back into ensuring that I could tell more stories and keep pushing this out because it feels like it's making a difference. It feels like it's starting to raise a bigger question. People are starting to get it, see like, oh, I see what he's doing. Like, New York is really fucked up.
Yeah.
Something everybody's known before, but it's kind of delving into like a dark corner of the city that nobody's really touched on.
That people forget about.
Right? People are, and they're gonna keep forgetting. There's stories right now. People can't tell you who the victims are. Wild shit that's going on right now. That like I can't even, like, it's crazy. The shit that's going on right now, and maybe there'll be somebody in 20 years who's covering that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that way. There should be the same way they handle. Like, there's memorials for a lot of things in the city, man. Like, I find it crazy that, like, I don't know if it's because those memorials highlight the city's failure or an agency's failure. I don't know if that's why, but I also feel like, I really do feel like the reason is just there's not enough people talking about it, that nothing's being done or memorializing or acknowledging what's happened. You know what I mean? You kind of need people raising
awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why
you always need that.
Right. Exactly.
Hey, keep doing the work, man. Evil
Yeah.
intentions. I like it. It's in a short time you've gotten really good at it, man.
Thank you, man.
And I mean, like, just editing, just your monologues, it's good pieces, man. So it's cool.
Thanks, man.
So and it's cool to be doing this, man. So guys, don't get
Yeah.
scared of New York. Come visit us.
Yeah. This is a balance. This is the balance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I need the balance. So it's kind of like, it's good to have both outlets.
Yeah.
Because I can't be doing that all the time.
No,
that shit'll have
you
you in
need
the dark.
something.
There are people who quit YouTube off of the content that I do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So doing this, I feel, is a good balance to kind of let people see both sides and keep my mind right, because that shit'll fuck you up.
Hey, this is the fucking goofy side
It's the
right
goofy
here.
side of shit, man.
Yo, this has been another Saturday Gigantic. Join us next week. Same time, same place. Peace.